Based on the literature, research, and emerging themes in MSE and neuroscience, a theoretical framework and delivery model of MSE was developed to improve physiological and psychological outcomes for populations with various disabilities. Based on the findings of this study, MSE should be A. artificially created, but include the natural environment as well, B. devoted to stimulate all the senses, C. safe, comfortable, and predictable, D. designed to empower the individual by providing self-choice, E. a demand-free leisure activity rather than a controlled therapy, F. passive and interactive, G. have trained facilitators, and H. affect brain arousal to heighten awareness and/or increase relaxation. A multisensory environment may be a natural environment. For example, during a walk on the beach, an individual's tactile senses are stimulated through the feel of the warm sun, a balmy breeze, and sand on their feet. The sound of the ocean waves and birds singing provide auditory feedback. Natural sunlight and the glisten of the sun on the water provide visuals, among other experiences. Although an MSE can be a natural environment, it is important that individuals with cognitive challenges are constantly and consistently provided elements of multi-sensory stimulation. An engineered environment may provide more or additional sensory stimulation for people who, due to their disabilities, are not spontaneously able to seek such stimulation on their own. Various limitations may impede the ability of an individual to interact with the natural environment in a meaningful way. For example, a blind child may not have the ability to see light in a natural environment. However, in an artificially created MSE, certain light illuminating equipment, such as the fiber optic, may stimulate the optic nerves. An individual with a disability may require an engineered environment to help make it meaningful and rewarding, or they will withdraw emotionally and physically to the security of their own internal sensation. In an artificially created environment, the sensory stimuli can be intensified or reduced and provided in a constant and consistent manner, offering more stimuli than the natural environment. When a child is left without appropriate environmental modifications, the child's ability to engage with the external environment may be seriously compromised. For children with disabilities, the natural environment may seem chaotic and unpredictable. Yet, through the use of an artificially created MSE, a child's natural environment becomes less chaotic as he or she learns how to control sensory input from their natural external world. Thus, it is just as important to provide the opportunity for individuals with intellectual disabilities to also interact with the natural environment as much as possible through walks in the park, on the beach, an evening concert, etc. Learning and motivation depends largely on the senses. Adequate multi-sensory stimulation of all the senses, consisting of auditory, visual, tactile, gustatory, olfactory, and kinetic modes, produced in sufficient frequency, intensity, and duration, excites and exercises the brain, improves its organization, heightens awareness, and permits increased functional activities. By working towards a better organized, stronger, and more efficient nervous system, individuals become better able to demonstrate and access their true potential. Intense periods of sensory stimulation that uses repeated movement, sound, touch, and visual exercises helps slowly create new pathways in the brain where they were damaged or undeveloped. Multisensory stimulation is essential for individuals with mental retardation, traumatic brain injury, and learning disabilities, where sensory pathways are stressed and had not formed the appropriate connections. Multimodal stimulation, stimulation of 3 or more senses, has more dramatic result than unimodal stimulation, stimulation of one sense. Those in multisensory environments have more recall with better resolution that lasts longer, evident even 20 years later. Additionally, research has shown that exercise and repetitive movements in physical activities involving kinesthetic stimulation have led to positive effects on behavioral challenges and improved brain function. Animal studies have shown that voluntary exercise and movement enhances cognitive performance and protects from brain injury and disease. Thus, outdoor play activity that offers kinesthetic and vestibular stimulation are important to include in a sensory stimulation program. Aimed to change brain arousal, an MSE should be safe, comfortable, consistent, providing constant sensory stimulation, and produces an atmosphere of trust. All elements of physical comfort, such as temperature, lighting, noise levels, or seating options, must be anticipated for the individuals. Individuals' personal space must be honored. Children and adults with multiple disabilities need opportunities for play, relaxation, and enjoyment in a quiet yet stimulating environment. A user-friendly environment that is constant and predictable for the individual is required to facilitate learning and development. By providing a demand-free, self-choice environment, an individual is empowered, which enhances his or her self-determination. SD is critical in predicting various performance and satisfaction outcomes. Self-determination theory, SDT, is a general theory of human motivation concerned with the development and functioning of personality within social contexts. The theory focuses on the degree to which human behaviors are self-determined, or the degree to which people endorse their actions by engaging in the actions with a full sense of choice. To be self-determining is to engage in an activity with a full sense of wanting, choosing, and personal endorsement. SD is viewed as a fundamental human right to govern one's life without unnecessary interference from others. Self-determination contributes to educational and work goals by increasing self-sufficiency, autonomy, and valued life outcomes like community integration, independent living, and inclusion. Most providers of MSE today use MSE mainly as a non-directive, demand-free, leisure, recreational activity, and/or educational tool that has been identified to have therapeutic value. The non-directive leisure nature of MSE has been emphasized with relaxation, enjoyment, learning, facilitation of interpersonal relationships, as well as improvement in brain functioning. In a demand-free, self-choice environment, a facilitator acts only as a guide, introducing the equipment to the child. The child chooses what equipment provides the most pleasure and enjoyment. A therapy is a controlled activity where a professional leads a patient through activities that the therapist feels are needed. For example, sensory integration therapy, SIT, is a controlled therapy where a therapist makes demands on the child to accomplish certain sensory motor activities. Sensory integration therapy is not a multi-sensory environment, but the terms are often incorrectly used interchangeably. MSE is an adaptable space based on utilizing the pleasure principle for learning and behavioral change. Sensory integration, or SI, is a treatment approach focused on the remediation of an assessed sensory deficit. SI is a treatment approach, not an environment. SI makes demands of the child and is not choice-driven, nor is it demand-free. SI treatment is very physically demanding and is not stress-free or relaxing, although some children do find enjoyment from the treatment. SI has been applied mainly to children with autism. A meta-analysis of 32 sensory integration therapy studies with rigorous procedures reported essentially no benefits from this sensory integration controlled therapy. Another study concluded that controlled sensory integration therapy by itself did not reduce self-injury behavior. Studies in SIT have indicated that sensory integration as a controlled therapy is ineffective, and that its theoretical underpinnings and assessment practices are invalid. While SIT does not appear to work as a therapy as intended, there is evidence that sensory experiences may provide other benefits, such as promoting healthy physical and mental exercise. Thus, sensory activities that are reinforcing and healthy should be offered as a leisure option. An analysis of studies on the effects of the use of multi-sensory environment showed more positive outcomes when MSE is used as a demand-free, self-choice activity rather than as a controlled therapy. Furthermore, voluntary wheel running in mice results in increases in plasticity, molecules, and cognitive enhancement. On the other hand, forced treadmill running did not improve cognition, probably due to stress. Based on this research, MSE as a voluntary leisure recreation activity is more likely to produce positive therapeutic outcomes than used as a controlled therapy. By this notion alone, the facilitator, whether a parent or therapist, is only a passive individual, providing guidance and a warm, loving atmosphere. The initial focus on MSE was to be utilized more as a passive approach. The MSE was an activity to provide enjoyment and pleasure to children with profound disabilities. MSE has recently moved in the direction to be more interactive with the philosophy to make learning an emphasis as well. Research in the United Kingdom suggests that the two approaches could be used together in order to create a more flexible use of the space. A key determination of an effective MSE experience is the facilitator, who serves as the first stimulus and guides the user through the MSE experience. The facilitator provides warm interaction, not interfering with the person's choice and pace, and guides the person towards sensory stimuli and engagement of objects. A facilitator is a significant person to the individual and therefore knows him or her well. The facilitator can be a parent, a sibling, a personal assistant, therapist, or teacher. The facilitator must A. Be empathetic and caring, B. Have an understanding of the user's sensory interests, and C. Know how to introduce the sensory stimulation to the user to affect brain arousal and brain synchronization that leads to increased enjoyment, focus, motivation, and learning. It is important to have an understanding of the individual's likes and dislikes to avoid any sensory overload, too much stimulation. While this is usually not an issue for low-functioning individuals that require multi-stimulation in order to achieve higher awareness and functional activity, it can be an issue for children that have sensory processing issues. Thus, it is important to understand a child's sensory processing issues and sensory needs. Brain arousal is fundamental to all cognition and behavior. Nearly all health problems flow from over-arousal, under-arousal, or instability in the central nervous system. Neural pathways are the underlying mechanism for brain arousal. Disrupting brain arousal mechanisms cause problems ranging from mild loss of vigilance or sleep to the devastation of a vegetative state. There are three premises to brain arousal and the well-being of an individual. A. Central to quality of life is cognition and brain activity and emotional function. B. The central nervous system arousal is fundamental to all cognition, brain activity, and emotional function. C. The core to increasing one's brain arousal is sensory stimulation. Through sensory stimulation, brain arousal is increased and improves cognition through alertness, attention, and orientation, and emotion through temperament, mood, and feelings. The strength of a learned response depends on the arousal and drive of the individual. Brain arousal provides the fundamental force that makes animals and humans active and responsive, so they will perform instinctive behaviors or learned behaviors directed toward goal objectives. MSE promotes changes in arousal levels and affects drive and motivation through changes in neurochemistry. Brain arousal is higher in those who are A. more alert to multisensory stimuli, B. more motor active, and C. more reactive emotionally. Arousal is a dynamic changing process related to direct and indirect responses to internal and external stimuli. For a human to be aroused, there must be some change in the environment. If there is change, there must be some uncertainty about the state of the environment. Brain arousal increases with intensity, complexity, novelty, unexpectedness, inconsistency, infrequency, changing environments, incongruence, the unusual. High degrees of novelty, uncertainty, and unpredictability have high information content and promote brain arousal. The more uncertain we are about the occurrence of an event or action, the more information is transmitted when the event or action does happen. Similarly, the more uncertain we are about an action or event, the more brain arousal is produced. For example, there are two events: the waving of a red or blue flag. If the red flag is waved all the time and the blue flag not at all, no information is transmitted by either flag, nor is there any brain arousal. However, if the flag selection is random, with a 50-50 chance of either flag being selected, information being transmitted is unpredictable and brain arousal is increased. Information conveys peaks when two probabilities are equal. That is, when the observer is least able to predict what will happen. The uncertainty, the surprise, and the information content are at their highest. Disorder maximizes information flow and increases brain arousal. At the opposite extreme, perfect order minimizes information flow and brain arousal. It is clear that in a monotonous environment, lacking change, a human or an animal will lose arousal and become less alert. Failure to thrive. Arousal can be decreased with consistency, repetition, familiarity, and neutrality. The optimal level of arousal is unique to each individual and is based on their sensory needs and interests. Based on the theoretical framework, the delivery model of an engineered multi-sensory environment consists of three hierarchical steps. The first step is to provide a physical space, room design and equipment selection that is safe, comfortable, and engineered to provide consistent and constant multi-sensory stimulation. The second step is a trained facilitator that has an understanding of the individual's sensory interests and provides demand-free self-choice opportunities to empower and increase self-determination. The third step is to provide techniques for utilizing the room and equipment to facilitate change in brain arousal, behavior, and motivation.